So, ladies and gentlemen, one of our favorite players in Montreal Canadiens history was up in my home region of Bathurst, New Brunswick. This guy put a Facebook Reels. He put 2H on Bathurst, but he's allowed because that's how he pronounced it, Bathurst. He was there with a bunch of NHL alumni, including Ricky Vive and Richer and some of the key players of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. But this guy's a legend in Canada and a legend in Eastern U.S. Probably the toughest player I ever covered or watched. 10-cent talent, but $1 million result. Not the greatest skills of all time, but my God, tough, tough, tough as nails. We call him Knuckles or Nuck. Of course, it's got to be Chris Nilan. Now, Christopher John Nilan, born February 1958 in Boston, is an American former pro ice hockey player and former radio host. He played nearly 700 NHL games as a right wing for the Habs, Boston Bruins, and New York Rangers between 80 and 92. He won the Stanley Cup in the miracle year of 86 with the Habs. He was famous for his propensity to fight and basically probably lost as many fights as he won. A typical strong East Coast U.S. player of the 70s and 80s. He holds a record for most penalty minutes by American-born player. Nilan's life and career are prominently featured in Alan Gibney's classic 2011 documentary film, The Last Gladiators. Now, came to major prominence in the Catholic Memorial Program in Massachusetts High School in 1976, but then ended up with Northeastern. And with them, with the JV of the ECAC, he came to major prominence, went into Habs, and he took him with a late selection, very late, 19 round, 231st overall in the 78 amateur draft. Now, pre-draft, he spent part of the 78 season with the Tri-Valley Squires of the New England Junior Hockey League. And again, he attended Catholic Memorial High School in West Roxbury, Massachusetts, before entering Northeastern. He grew up, of course, idolizing Bobby Orr of the Bruins, and dreamed of playing for Boston. Now, his debut came on February 26, 1980, in one of Montreal's last games ever against the Atlanta Flames. Now, he wore the famous number 30 for Montreal Rangers in Boston, and in his career, from 1980 to 92, 688 games, 3,043 minutes and penalties, almost 5 a game, 110 key goals, 115 assists, 225 minutes and penalties. And his playoff stats were just tremendous. 111 games, 541 minutes and penalties, 8 goals, 9 assists. Now, holds numerous Montreal records for penalty minutes, but we want to look at his whole career. He played in the All-Star game for Boston in 91, but did not hit the ice because he was injured. He holds the NHL record for most penalties in one game, 10 for Boston for Hartford versus Hartford on March 31st in 91. 6 minors, 2 majors, 1 misconduct, and 1 game. Most penalty minutes in a playoff year, 141 and 86 for the Habs, and well serves. Montreal records most career penalty minutes, 2,248. Most penalty minutes in one game, 39 versus Washington on February 14, 81. Most career penalty minutes, regular season and playoffs combined, 2670. Most penalty minutes in one season, 358 and 85. Most penalty minutes in one regular season and playoffs combined, 439 and 84-85. Most career playoff penalty minutes were 422. Most penalty minutes in one playoff year, 141 in 86. And most penalty minutes in one playoff series, that rough 7-gamer versus Quebec in 85, where we lost in 79. Now, he holds the Rangers records for most penalty minutes in one game, 35 at Chicago on October 8, 89. Now, Boston record, again, most penalties ever by a Bruin versus Hartford, 6, 2, 1, and 1. So 6 minors, 2 majors, 1 misconduct, and 1 game misconduct. But that type of his game had to be dealt with, but I mean, he was good on defense as well. A good two-way player, but he wasn't going to take any shit. And he protected all of Montreal's key players. He was the NHL penalty minutes leader in 84 for Montreal with 338, and in 85 again with Montreal with 355. He was playoff penalty minutes leader in 84 and 86 for Montreal, 81 and 141 respectively. He was Montreal penalty minutes leader in 81 with 262, 82 with 204, 83 with 213, 84 with 338, 85 with 358, 86 with 274, 87 with 266, and 88 with 209. He was Montreal's playoffs minutes leader from 84 to 87 inclusive, 81, 81, 141, 75. He was Boston's penalty minutes leader in 91 and 92 with 277 and 186. He was Boston's playoff minutes leader with 162 and 91. Now, he eventually went into coaching. He was named New Jersey's AC on August 3rd, 95, and remained there until the May 96. Now, his big line with Montreal, of course, was the Carbonneau-Gainey line. You wouldn't think two softies like Carbonneau and Gainey would play with Nilan, but he was, like I said, strong on defense. That was their defensive line in 81. He was eventually suspended 3 games by the NHL during the 82 season for throwing a puck at Paul Baxter while sitting in the penalty box during Montreal's November 21st, 81 game versus Pittsburgh. There was no info if he did hit Paul. He took over as Montreal's all-time penalty minutes leader when he broke, of all people, Maurice Richard's former record of 1285 during a January 22nd, 85 game at Hartford, which made heavy news in Quebec. Because the guy led, he said, by the way, Chris Lawler bet one of Maurice Richard's record last night. Let's go to the tape, and he showed some of the activity. Now, he suspended 8 games by the NHL during the 86 season for intentionally injuring Rick Middleton during Montreal's October 85 game at Boston. Now, I didn't mention this to Middleton when I interviewed him in 2010 at the Boston Bruins alumni game in Woodstock, New Brunswick. That's a part of his career that I don't think he should be brought up again. That was a very dangerous moment for Rick. Now, he was suspended 3 games by the NHL during the 87 season for an altercation with Ken Linsman during Montreal's November 20, 86 game at Boston. He also missed parts of the 87 season with a left knee injury suffered in February 87 and with a hip injury suffered in March 87. He also missed part of the 88 season with a knee injury suffered during the Rangers' 1980 February 2nd, 88 game versus the Islanders. Now, a big injury in the 89 season, strained ligament of the front pelvic bone, an injury suffered during the Rangers' December 6, 88 game at Vancouver, and was re-aggravated in December of that year. He did not return to action until early spring. Now, he missed most of the 1990 season with a fractured right forearm, an injury suffered during the Rangers' November 4th, 89 game in Montreal. He did not return to action until about 3 months later. He also missed part of the 1989-90 season with a sprained left knee, an injury suffered during the Rangers' February 14 Valentine's Day game versus Pittsburgh. He did not return to action until 2 months later. He also missed the end of the 1990 playoffs with a broken ulnar bone in the right arm, very painful injury for him, suffered when he was checked by Ken Baumgartner during the Rangers' April 11th 90 game versus the Islanders. He also missed a part of the 90 season with a knee injury suffered during Boston's October 4th, 1990 season opener versus Philadelphia. He also missed part of the 91 season with a broken left ankle, an injury suffered while playing one-on-one basketball after Boston's January 6, 91 practice. The injury required surgery on February 8th, and Nilan did not return to action until 6 weeks later. He also missed a chance to play in his first All-Star game after he was named a team by the Wales Conference head coach. His selection was controversial since critics accused Mike Milbury of favoring Boston players. Well, I mean, Nilan should have been on the All-Star. If there would be like a creative goon, this would be, because he was just not a goon, he was creative about it. Now, he retired with the number 2 ranking behind Tiger Williams on the NHL career combined regular season and playoff penalty minutes list, but I would take Chris Nilan 99 times 100 with a goal on the line. Now, post-draft teams, he played with Northeastern, of course, Nova Scotia. He played for the U.S. He was part of the U.S. team at the Canada Cup, but did not play in 84, and helped him to a 5th place finish in 87. Now, his coaching career was very prestigious in ECHL, as he was named the association's Coach of the Year for Chesapeake in 1998. He also had a AHL penalty minutes leader trophy in 1980 with the Voyageurs with 340 minutes. Now, he was named Chesapeake's head coach prior to his first season and held a position for 2 seasons. Now, ironically, he majored in criminal law at Northeastern. Good fit. Now, internationally, had game-winning goal for Team USA in a 5-2 Canada Cup victory over Sweden on August 31st, 87. That was big news for all the Habs fans. He was also suspended 5 games by the ECHL in '98 for failing to leave a game after getting 2 bench penalties and a game misconduct while coaching Chesapeake on November 29, '97. As a result, his team forfeited the game. Now, he was very active in charitable causes during his playing days in Montreal, organizing the Chris Nilan Golf Classic to raise money for Montreal Children's Hospital. Now, he returned to the Boston area and went into the insurance business after retirement. He also spent 3 years as a community relations consultant for the great John Hancock Mutual Life Insurance Company before entering coaching in '95. He was eventually hired by Rhode Island Secretary of State Edward S. Inman III as an executive assistant in April 2001. Matt Brown, who ran against Inman in 2002, also accused Nilan of never showing up for work and claimed Inman was wasting tax money by paying him. Nilan eventually quit the job. And as well, he found himself caught up in the middle of the Boston Catholic Church sex scandal in 2002 when his friend, Monsignor Frederick J. Ryan, admitted to him that he had molested 3 boys in the 1970s and 80s. Ryan, who performed Nilan's wedding ceremony, had been chaplain at Catholic Memorial High School when Nilan was a student there. Nilan was also friendly with Ryan's victims. Nilan confronted Ryan to learn the truth and will later be a witness in legal proceedings against the priests. Now, he also became active in Old Timers charity hockey after his retirement, thus the tour of East Coast, and very well received in the Bathurst region. Although I was hoping for a bigger crowd, but like I said, seeing Nilan and Vive and Kasparaitis and Rishi on the same team brought a lot of good memories for the people. Now, he's a son of a former U.S. Army Special Forces member, Henry Nilan, a career military man. Now, the big controversial trade when the Habs dealt Nilan to the Rangers in exchange for the option to switch 89 first-round picks on January 27th, '88. Montreal exercised his option and selected a terrible draft for us, Lindsay Vallis, while Rangers selected Stephen Rice. 4 years later, Montreal got Nilan back when he claimed him off waivers from Boston on February 12, 1992. Now, again, the Youth Hockeywood Parkway in West Roxbury it was the Greater Boston Youth Hockey League, which was sponsored by the Metropolitan District Commission. Again, with the Northeastern University Huskies, he averaged 3.5 penalty minutes per game in his final collegiate season. Now, unfortunately, hobbled by those injuries I just mentioned, he missed over 200 games in his final 5 years and will only play as much as 50 games twice in those final 4 campaigns. Again, he retired after '92. Highlights of his career including, again, winning the Stanley Cup in '86, the Miracle Squad for Montreal, and again, being named to Team USA, and of course the controversial selections of the All-Star game by Mike Milbury. Now, due to Milbury's what he called, not to incorrect, but motivated pick, it led to changes in how players are selected for All-Star squads, not like baseball anymore. Now, he was married to Karen Stanley in '81, unfortunately divorced in 2006. They have 2 daughters, Colleen and Tara, and one son, Christopher. Karen was a daughter of Teresa Stanley, who was one of the notorious crime boss Wilder Bulger's girlfriends. Now, Nilan, who has talked a lot about his past problems with alcohol and drugs, as well as battling a heroin addiction, is still here to tell the tale. Post-concussion syndrome, the problem of fighting in hockey. He's talked numerous times about that. And he also speaks to local students in the Montreal region on a regular basis about learning about from his life experiences and mistakes. And Nilan himself has said that he's made some rough decisions, but like he's still here to talk about positive choices. Sort of a comparable version of Bernie Carbo for baseball. Nilan has seen it all and been part of a very interesting era for hockey. Everybody in Canada knows who Chris Nilan is. He's a household word. And in Massachusetts he is. For some reason, Chris Nilan still has that legacy of Montreal had to do something to get back to the Cup. If Chris Nilan was around in 1980, he would have never lost to Minnesota. They would have never lost Edmonton in '81. They would have never lost to Buffalo. Buffalo later on, and to Quebec in '82. When he, again, if we're playing full time with Montreal when he arrived, it was a whole big deal. Now, Nilan lived in Oregon for 2 years, where he met his current girlfriend, Jamie Holtz, who was originally from Hawaii. Chris then moved back to Montreal with Jamie in 2011, and of course, they currently reside in the beautiful region of Dorval. He eventually began hosting his own program, Off the Cuff, on TSN Radio 690 Montreal on March 18, 2013, after being a daily phone-in guest on Melnick in the afternoon for a number of months. The show aired from noon to 3 p.m. weekdays local time, and it was also streamed live online. In 2022, he was fired from his off-the-cuff hosting position by Bell Media after he refused to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Now, he hosts his own podcast right now, the Raw Knuckles podcast, which you can see versions on different platforms. Again, just to recap the stats. Northeastern, those 2 seasons initially, 11 goals in 77 and 78 combined. Again, played with the Tri-Valley Squares as well of the NAJHL in 78. With Northeastern, he had 26 points in 32 games in 79. Nova Scotia Voyageurs, his first pro season. 15 goals, 10 assists for 25 points, 304 minutes and penalties. And again, the seasons with Montreal, and he scored 20 goals in that 85 season. One of his most successful ones. And again, with the Rangers, relatively low stats. He only scored 11 goals in less than 90 games with the squad over a number of seasons. Again, with Boston, 15 points in 41 games in 91. And back with Montreal, he scored his last goal as a Hab in that 92 season. So, and internationally, again, Canada Cup in 87, 2 goals in 5 games. Now, he holds a very unique list. He's one of only a few dozen NHL players with 2,000 career penalty minutes. Now, he's currently ninth overall behind Tim Hunter. Tim Hunter has 31.46. And just to recap, Tiger Williams, 39.71. Dale Hunter, 35.65. Ty Domi, 35.15. Marty McSorley, 33.81. Bobby Probert, 3,300. Rob Ray, 3207. Craig Berube, 3149. Tim Hunter, 3146. And again, Chris Nilan in 13 season, 3043. And I think him and Tiger Williams are comparable numbers. But all these goons or fighters or whatever you want to call them, you have between 13 and 17 seasons. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Okay? I've met a lot of alumni players through the years, and I take pride in covering them or seeing them in person. Guy Lafleur, Stéphane Richer, Rick Middleton, Ken Linsman, Raymond Bourque, Rick Smith, great interview. Terry O'Reilly was tremendous. But I have a great affection for Chris Nilan. He's been through a lot of shit in his life. If I had 5 cents for every moment that I've heard about Chris Nilan being dedicated to hockey and also kind of making rough decisions, I'd be a millionaire. He's a survivor, ladies and gentlemen. He has my great respect because when he arrived in Montreal, even though he's from Boston, he played with the heart of a Boston Bruin for the Montreal Canadiens, and I'm glad he later played with the Bruins. When Dad found out the Rangers had picked him up, he said, I hope he ends up with Boston. He deserves to play a few games. And I remember, I think it was Derek Sanderson said, when I saw Chris Nilan in the Boston uniform, I couldn't believe it. It was like he was finally home. He played like a Boston Bruin with the Montreal Canadiens, and he lived and died for the Habs. He loved that squad. But there was a time, ladies and gentlemen, when he had John Cordick and Claude Lemieux and Chrissy Nilan. And let me tell you something, it was an outstanding time. You see, we talk about the Maple Leafs, but there's no legendary players in the Leafs besides Wendell Clark and a few others since the early 1980s. And ironically, Rick Vive, one of his team named an alumni game. But Chris Nilan is an iconic player. And personally, it wouldn't be right to retire his number 30. But you think of Chris Nilan, and first you think he's a champion. He's dedicated to hockey. Again, he's a survivor. And him still being alive, no matter what the shit he's been through, he's had a lot of lives, a lot of things going on. I am proud to say he was a Montreal Canadian. when I saw that number 30 go on the ice, even in a warm up, I said to myself, let's get the Pepsi out, let's get the Ruffles out. There's going to be fun tonight. And the 84 brawl and the Cup in 86, where I was sure we were going to lose against Hartford in overtime, I was sure. And when Claude put the puck over Michael Week's shoulder, I said the dream has come true. He was part of that dream season. The real miracle on ice was not 1980, because that team was talented. You could bet anybody. You even bet the Czechs that year. But the true miracle on ice, a bunch of young kids from Nova Scotia, and a few holdovers from 82, 83, 84, like Nilan. It's amazing we won that year because everything worked to our advantage. And to beat Calgary, too, it was amazing. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like Chris Nilan, if you like what we're doing with the Montreal Canadiens Vintage Podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. If you like Chris Nilan, tell us why. If you don't like him, tell us why too, because I don't honestly think most people remember the what I call the lane brawl. when he was trying to go to the dressing room with her, they were fighting by the benches because the old Boston Gardener was like 10 feet away from danger every game. But ladies and gentlemen, I should have had the opportunity to ask Ken Linsman what he thought of Chris Nilan, but I wasn't going to. I was there as a Charles, I wasn't there as a Montreal fan. But my God, ladies and gentlemen, you probably have affection for a girlfriend that you weren't to for a while, but she really knew how to party. If I ever go to heaven, I hope I do, and Chrissy meets me up there, I said, I want to party with you. I want to have Henri Richard there. I want to have Bill Durham. I want to have Doug Harvey. Doug, if you had a few pops sitting around the table. I said, Chris, tell me what it was like in the '87 when Rush and Hosperner jumped Claude in the post warm up. The famous Game 6 brawl. Ladies and gentlemen, the Montreal Canadiens are Chris Nilan. Chris Nilan's the Montreal Canadiens. Thanks for listening, and don't forget, we say in the North Shore, and we're putting on a t-shirt very soon, keep your stick on the ice. Like, comment, subscribe, or share.